news just dropped! Poppy Playtime is officially coming to Minecraft. According to a recent Yahoo press release, the devs confirmed that the game will soon be available inside Minecraft. And honestly, I'm calling it now. This is gonna be an info explosion, so be ready to try it out the moment it drops. On top of that, it was recently confirmed that the nightmare critters will not be returning in Chapter 5. Which, let's be real, was kind of expected. That whole experiment flopped hard, and I doubt anyone's really gonna miss Baba Chops or Alistair Gator. But that's not all. We've got even more major Chapter 5 updates to break down. Leaks, spoilers, news, theories, characters, and literally everything else related to Chapter 5. You're about to learn it all. And hey, if you don't agree with some of the theories, feel free to drop a comment. I'll be waiting for you there. And if you want to help the channel grow, just let this video play in the background while you're cleaning, chilling, going for a walk, or doing whatever. Big thanks in advance. Let's get into it. Chapter 5 has to wrap up this long and insanely wild story. We're gonna split everything into two parts, with the big fall after the explosion in the ventilation block as the dividing point. And speaking of the ventilation block, there's only one way to start this breakdown, by talking about that so-called ally. Everything kicked off with Olly straight up confessing that he's not actually an orphan, but instead the most relentless presence lurking around Playtime Factory.
Is this where you are, Poppy?
What?
Stay where you are.
And listen closely. You're not going to run. You're not going to fight. The charade is over.
Who is this?
An obvious question with an obvious answer.
And pretty much right away, we're reminded of that tape. Yeah, the one where Poppy got real honest with Olly, spilling her worries and struggles like she actually trusted him.
Nothing more than what they've already done.
Something's bothering you, Poppy. Something you need to talk about?
I don't need anything tonight. Olly, I just want to sleep.
I think there's more to this. More that you're not telling me.
There's not.
I know what you're doing, Poppy.
Bad men don't say what they want. They don't listen. They don't care how much anything hurts. It's been weeks and weeks of taking things out and putting them back in, and taking things out and putting them back in. Over and over and over. Nothing's ever gotten better, and it'll never get better.
And now we gotta figure out, how's this gonna affect Poppy and us in Chapter 5? First off, let's keep in mind that Olly always seemed like a positive character, someone who was actually helping us. But considering that the events on that tape happened way before the player ever stepped foot back in the factory, it's clear that the prototype's been playing these mind games for a long time. And judging by Poppy's words,
How much do you know?
Everything.
This isn't right. All those years. Was there ever an Olly? No. This entire time, you've lied to me!
Only because you've kept
Missing the point.
it's pretty damn clear now. She was telling him everything about every update to her plan and what was going on with the so-called good monsters. And when you realize that our survival at times straight up depended on Olly, it's honestly terrifying to think what's gonna happen to us without him as an ally. And to top it all off, Poppy ditched us, but not before dropping a major truth bomb about one of the factory's biggest secrets.
It's always been about you.
And we'll harm you. What we are. That's not a truth that can be burnt away. No, not when it can mean so much more.
Prototype. Please.
It's time to come home.
Poppy.
in the case. I can't. I'm sorry.
Y'all remember the ending of Chapter 1, right? The first time we ever saw Poppy, back then it all seemed weird and made zero sense until that conversation. Now, pretty much nobody doubts that the prototype was the one who locked Poppy in that damn case. But why? What does the prototype get out of this? And why is it so crucial for him to make sure the doll stays right where she belongs? More importantly, how's it all actually going to go down in Chapter 5? And what's this escape going to mean for us? And that's where we hit our first big problem. 'Cause yeah, we can kind of explain Poppy's behavior at this point, but the prototype, his actions seem totally random until we remember that untitled tape, the one packed with crazy valuable info.
So awful. I didn't want... This wasn't what I thought we were gonna leave. Leave the factory. Not this. All those people. Prototype says we can't leave. Not now, not ever. I hate him. I hate him, and I hate this place, and I hate that he's... right. He explained everything, and he's right. We can't leave. It's too risky. What they did to us, we can't ever let it happen to us or anyone ever again. Doesn't make me feel better about the bodies, though. What he was saying about them. I know there's not really another option. The toys will starve otherwise. They'll die. But it's still disgusting. I wish you were here, Dad. I could really use one of your talks right about now. You'd know what to say. When you were running this place, you always knew what to say. I miss you.
First off, it's clear the prototype isn't just randomly going after Poppy. This all started right after Hour of Joy. Poppy was one of the key figures fighting back against him. Not only does she know a lot about him, but we also officially got confirmation that Elliot Ludwig is her father. And now, the puzzle pieces are finally coming together. We see just how important Poppy is, not just to the story, but to us as an ally. And just like we need her, she needs us. That explosion in the ventilation block? Planned. It was set up specifically to separate us from Kissy. Meanwhile, all those mind games and that emotionally crushing conversation pushed Poppy over the edge. She just couldn't hold it together and ran. That means the prototype successfully pulled off phase 1 of his plan to take us out. And this is why the ending of Chapter 4 changed everything moving forward. So what's next? Well, first off, Kissy's not dead. We literally saw her alive after the explosion. Plus, she survived way worse, though yeah, losing an arm isn't exactly fun. But I'm sure we'll see her again in Chapter 5. Poppy, she'll definitely come back too, but not anytime soon. We're gonna be completely alone for a while. Now, we've already talked about how Chapter 5 is gonna be the finale. Some people agree, some don't, but either way, the first part of Chapter 5 is pure survival. We'll be trying to stay alive and find our allies, and that's a huge problem for the prototype. Even back in Chapter 3, we saw that he won't attack us while we're with someone. It's way easier for him to take us down one by one. Oh, and let's not forget that little piece of our convo with Poppy.
So, if we're going to free them and stop the prototype, we need to plan for both at the same time. The red smoke you redirected from Playcare? It's an accelerant. All it needs is high pressure and a little spark, and it ignites. The plan is this. We'll fill the foundation with smoke and line it with old mining charges. Then once you, me, and Kissy have freed the orphans, our friends here will blow this place sky high. That's our revenge.
And as we figured out, this is literally the only shot we have at getting out of Playtime Factory. So yeah, the first attempt to pull it off failed, but that doesn't mean Poppy just gave up on the idea and crawled back into her case to chill as the prototype's prisoner. But here's where things get way more complicated. The one person who could have helped us, even if he was against it because he was scared for the defenseless toys that could have gone up in flames along with the prototype, is now dead. And yeah, that's on us and Poppy. And as for Olly, well, we've already talked about that. So now, on top of just surviving in the labs, which we'll get to in a sec, we gotta find Poppy and Kissy again and somehow pull off the only escape plan we have, all while barely having any allies left. Just the three of us. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Alright, now let's finally get into the second part of the ending. It's shorter than the first, but way more interesting. First thing we see, the Poppy Garden. And honestly, that feels like the biggest hint yet that Chapter 5 is where we finally uncover every last secret. Right now, we know that the poppy flower has some seriously weird properties, discovered most likely by Elliot Ludwig himself. After that, other scientists, including Harley Sawyer, started experimenting with it. He used poppies as the main ingredient in his creepy resurrection experiments. First on dead rats, then eventually on monsters. And this is exactly what we'll be digging into in Chapter 5, solving the mystery behind the poppy flower and uncovering its true abilities. Hell, we might even end up using it to bring someone back, someone we've already lost. But even that ain't the craziest part, because right past that long-ass pathway, we see the door, the one leading straight to the labs, the place Poppy herself hinted at during our conversation. And once we step inside, we're lucky enough to hear it.
Hi, my name is Leif Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at Playtime Co. If you're seeing this, you must be very, very lost. Well, rest assured, friend, our state-of-the-art laboratory is just up ahead. Why don't you just go on inside and tap one of our scientists on the shoulder? Tell them you're lost. They'll be glad to help. All right. Let's be honest. You're not supposed to be here. This is the single most high-security, high-clearance section of the whole factory. When someone finds you down here, you will be shot. And before you get any ideas, don't think you can just sneak away either. No, the second you put this tape in, it set off an alarm. So if anyone's home, they know exactly where you are. Pretty nifty, huh? Security is very important to us here. If I were you, I'd start running.
And there you have it. The big conclusion that leads us to the obvious. The main location of Chapter 5? The labs, the prototype's home turf. And since these labs are sitting right next to the poppy flowers, it's crystal clear. We're finally gonna uncover the biggest secret of Poppy Playtime. As for Huggy, well, we've already talked about his return and everything tied to it, so no need to go down that rabbit hole again. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment on what else the ending of Chapter 4 revealed and how you think it's going to shape Chapter 5. I've already seen a bunch of theories about who's going to show up in Chapter 5, and honestly, some of them just make me want to laugh. Some people seriously think that little chick from the Bunzo Bunny comic could be Poe, and just cause they showed him once, that means he's got to be in Chapter 5? Come on! That theory makes me want to laugh and cry at the same time. And don't even get me started on the nightmare critters. They weren't even supposed to be part of the story originally. They were just thrown in to fill gaps. And yeah, their so-called leader, Baba Chops, was a total letdown. But somehow, the almighty and terrifying Poe is supposed to wipe us out in Chapter 5? Okay. Fan favorite Braun also popped up in theories about Chapter 5. But Isaac already said they kept trying to add him, and it never worked out. Then he mentioned that since they couldn't fit Braun into the story properly, they at least made that VHS tape you're looking at right now. So yeah, no Brawn in Chapter 5. And as for Pianosaurus making a comeback, that's a whole different joke. Just look at this response. It's pretty clear. Like the Nightmare Critters, Pianosaurus was never canon. So thinking about his return is just wishful thinking at best. Alright, looks like we've dealt with all the nonsense, so now we can move on to the more interesting possibilities. Y'all remember that mysterious hat they've been teasing for ages, right? By now, it's no secret that all those hints were leading up to one of the best characters in Poppy Playtime history, Doughy the Dough Man. And honestly, one of the concept designs even came kinda close to his actual look. But aside from all those hats, we once saw a weird image with some kind of silhouette hidden in it. Before the gameplay trailer dropped, we were sure those hats and that clown were pointing to a specific character, but now everything's changed, and this mysterious clown might actually be one of the new monsters. We know for sure it's not Doughy, so who the hell is this clown? If you follow fan-made content, you've probably seen a dude named Lulu the Clown, and I gotta admit, he caught my attention. Now, obviously, we're not going to see him exactly as he appears in fan concepts, but something similar could definitely show up in Chapter 5. We all know how much Mob Entertainment loves their Easter eggs and hidden references. That being said, I don't think he's going to follow Doughy's story arc. I seriously doubt they'll give us another friendly character who turns on us in the end. But hey, there's always a twist, and I actually have a really interesting theory about that, which I'll get into in just a minute. But before that, let's talk about one of the smiling critters. I came across a theory online about their return, and honestly, it kinda got my attention. I'll say right away, the chances are small, but they're still there. Everyone remembers that critter, Hoppy Hopscotch, right?
Wanna try hopping to the moon with me? On three with me. 1, 2, 3! Heh, didn't get very far, did we? Jump! Jump!
And back then, there were already tons of suspicions that Hoppy was still alive, and that her desperate scream wasn't because of the prototype attacking or anything like that, but simply because she jumped way too high. The following distortions also hint at this. Plus, one of the VHS tapes once again teases Hoppy.
Thanks, Doughy. Sorry we lost the supplies. It won't happen again.
The important thing is you're both okay. Aside from that bite, that is.
But let's be real, this theory has the right to exist, even though it seems pretty unlikely. What do you guys think about it? And of course, in Chapter 4, something happened that many had already suspected since Chapter 3. Olly actually turned out to be the prototype. Olly had been helping us for a long time, and we seriously considered him an ally. But in the final scene of Chapter 4, the moment many had been waiting for finally happened, while others were genuinely shocked by this plot twist.
Shelf ventilation block B6. Is this where you are, Poppy?
What?
Stay where you are.
And listen closely. You're not going to run. You're not going to fight. The charade is over.
Who is this?
An obvious question with an obvious answer.
That good old buddy Olly? Yeah. Turns out he never actually talked to us. Dude's probably been dead for a while now, and the prototype just straight up jacked his voice. Wild, right? I mean, Olly always seemed like this chill, helpful guy, but in the end, he kind of betrayed us. Well, sorta. So, if we lost someone like him, wouldn't it make total sense for Chapter 5 to throw in another Olly-type character? Hopefully this time, not just the prototype in disguise. And that's where the clown comes in. Why not, right? What if he takes Olly's place? We meet him at the start, he helps us out, seems all friendly, and then, boom, he backstabs us and hands us over to the prototype at the worst possible moment. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Now, the theory that Chapter 5 is going to be the grand finale is gaining more and more traction. And if that's the case, it's pretty much guaranteed we're finally going to face the prototype. Not much to say about him. Everyone's already convinced he's showing up, whether this is the last chapter or not. Huggy, though? That's where things get interesting. We know he's one of the prototype's minions, and it totally looks like he's going to be a villain in Chapter 5. But what if there's another side to this? We all know Kissy, and the fact that she's on our side is as obvious as needing water to survive. And if we go back to Sleep Well, we see shots of Huggy and Kissy together. They're actually really close friends. So some folks think Kissy might be able to change Huggy's mind and turn him into our ally. Personally, I don't buy it. Here's how I think it's gonna go down. Huggy shows up, door behind us opens, we manage to escape, running, and then poof, Huggy's gone. Later, we run into someone who looks like Lulu, we play through the game, Lulu betrays us, we finally meet the prototype. He disappears, then Huggy pops up again, we take him down, and of course, we get one final showdown with the prototype, and there you go. Quick recap of the characters we just talked about. Even though I mentioned how confident I am that Chapter 5 will be the finale, some fans, thanks to a message from Zach, think otherwise and believe we'll get at least 6 chapters of Poppy Playtime. I gotta say, I think Zach was just messing around with us, nothing more. Everything's pointing to Chapter 5 wrapping up the Playtime story, and that's why I'm so confident about it. Now, because some folks are holding on to the idea that there will be more than 5 chapters, a few of them brought up an old leak about an amusement park, and theories started flying that maybe this park will be the main setting for Chapter 5. But let me tell you, I'm 1,000,000% sure that the prototype's lab will be the main location, and that final VHS tape only backs me up on that.
Hi, my name is Leif Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at Playtime Co. If you're seeing this, you must be very, very lost. Well, rest assured, friend, our state-of-the-art laboratory is just up ahead. Why don't you just go on inside and tap one of our scientists on the shoulder? Tell them you're lost. They'll be glad to help. All right. Let's be honest. You're not supposed to be here. This is the single most high security, high clearance section of the whole factory. When someone finds you down here, you will be shot. And before you get any ideas, don't think you can just sneak away either. No, the second you put this tape in, it set off an alarm. So if anyone's home, they know exactly where you are. Pretty nifty, huh? Security is very important to us here. If I were you, I'd start running.
And of course, we can't forget about Poppy, who straight up ditched us at the end of Chapter 4. But honestly, it felt like everything was leading up to that, especially with Dowie, who had already gone through something similar. Her return is a given, and I doubt anyone will be surprised. We know Poppy wasn't feeling too great after the Hour of Joy, and that event pretty much pushed her conflict with the prototype to the absolute limit. That's why I'm convinced she's gonna play a major role in taking him down in Chapter 5. And I promised y'all I'd tell you which of the prototype's minions might be making a comeback. It all started with Poppy mentioning the Hour of Joy in Chapter 3, the root of all the horrors that unfolded at Playtime Co. Then, in our conversation with her, she revealed that the prototype's home is in the laboratories. After that, we got those strange statements from Dr. Harley Sawyer, the chilling VHS tape where Poppy spilled major secrets, the long-awaited full conversation with the prototype, Poppy's escape, and finally, Huggy's return, along with the certainty that the main setting of the new chapter will be that very lab, the prototype's domain. I think it's obvious to everyone that the prototype is our ultimate antagonist in Poppy Playtime. And considering everything we've discussed, our encounter with him is now inevitable, especially since they've been hinting at his grand reveal ever since Chapter 2. Come on! And after all this, you still think there could be anything after Chapter 5? To me, that would be complete nonsense, because the entire main storyline can be perfectly wrapped up in Chapter 5. And that's without even getting into Huggy, who definitely didn't return for no reason. Now, we can finally say with confidence, Chapter 5 has to conclude the story of Poppy Playtime. which means it's time to talk about who we might see again. I don't think anyone will be shocked if I say Huggy Wuggy. All right, we'll get to Huggy and his potentially major role later. But for now, let's talk about everyone else. Drop your own ratings for how likely each character is to return in the comments. But keep in mind, this is the final chapter, and everything will revolve around the prototype. The first so-called victim of the prototype, none other than Mommy Longlegs.
What have you done? You make me part of you! You can't do this to me!
What stood out to me the most were her words about not wanting to be a part of him. Judging by what's left of Mommy, it would be foolish to claim she'll return in Chapter 5 in the classic form we're used to seeing her. But let's not forget that Playtime's labs are home to mind-bending technologies. And now that the prototype is in charge, all their developments are literally in his head. That means, while it's small, there's still a chance that Mommy Longlegs might come back. She could appear as Mommy 2.0 or more likely as part of the prototype's body. But as the original Mommy Longlegs, we definitely won't see her in that form. Still, I'd love to see that pink beauty again. Aside from Mommy, there's another missing piece in the prototype's puzzle, Catnap, the circumstances of his death or maybe his survival, which still haunt me to this day. Take note of how this so-called incident unfolded. At first glance, it seems like the prototype's claw pierced Catnap's head completely. And it looks pretty obvious, but this is mob entertainment we're talking about. They're capable of anything, as we saw with Huggy. But take a closer look. Now, once more, the prototype's claw hits precisely the center of Catnap's mouth. And despite the blood, you can clearly see that no vital organ, specifically the brain or the arteries carrying blood from the neck, has been damaged. This makes it quite possible that Catnap survived, and as a result, his return in Chapter 5 is very likely. I know this might sound crazy, but you remember we're dealing with the prototype and his labs. And if we're talking about Catnap, we can't ignore his complete opposite, Dog Day. This guy was one of the most intriguing characters in Chapter 3, and thanks to him, we learned a lot of new things.
Come to save us. Nothing left to save. Not here. Lord Catnap's home, Angel. Their home. A myriad pairs of eyes are on you now. Watching, waiting, hungry. They want nothing more than to crawl beneath your skin and eat away at you bit by little bit. Fill what feels empty inside themselves. That thing, Catnap, the prototype is his god, and this is what he does to heretics. We try to fight it, the prototype's control. I am the last of the smiling critters.
I think everyone felt a little something in their heart at this moment. But if we put emotions aside and think logically, Dog Day is alive. His body was simply taken over by the mini critters. And if we remember the final scene with him, I didn't notice anything that suggested a fatal outcome for him. We easily escaped from him and shut the door right in his face, interrupting his chase. But he's still alive, and you probably can't argue with that. Unlike Miss Delight, who definitely won't be coming back, at least because we split her body into 2 parts. And honestly, she isn't important to the prototype like Mommy Longlegs for him to waste time and energy resurrecting her. I'm pretty sure we'll encounter Dog Day again as an episodic monster trying to catch us, but we know that this time he'll probably meet the same fate as Miss Delight. And since we're talking about smiling critters, it would be a crime not to mention Hoppy Hopscotch, who first appeared to us in Chapter 3.
On three with me. 1, 2, 3! Heh, didn't get very far, did we? Again! 1, 2, 3! Nope, still didn't make it. Listen, this won't stop until we make it to the moon. 1, 2... No, don't look at your feet! None of that matters! Again! Jump!
Hey, what really got me hooked was that we don't hear any screams like we do with Bubba or Kickin'. But the devs decided to spice things up and keep us intrigued by showing a little snippet of her life in Safe Haven.
I need some help here! Hey, watch the door! Watch the door!
Right here.
There you go, bud. You're okay.
Okay, look at me. I'm a mess.
Poppy, what's going on?
We were trying to bring supplies back up to the elevator, but we got jumped. Had to turn all the way back around. So, what do we do now?
For starters, you two stay here tonight. Let things settle down outside. I'll find more food for you to bring up to play care. When you're ready.
Thanks, Joey. Sorry we lost the supplies. It won't happen again.
And it seems like nothing, just a small reference to an old character, and I'd agree with you if it wasn't for that damn note on the wall, where we find out that Hoppy disappeared and they can't find her. That's the real reason she's not in Safe Haven, and what's really interesting is that we haven't seen any solid proof of her death. So these references make you think that she might be, let's say, captured by the prototype in those very labs, and the chances of meeting her in Chapter 5 are pretty high. You can't just assume she was killed by Catnap or anyone else, cause no one, except the devs, knows for sure. And if you're curious whether any other smiling critters have a chance of coming back, after you're done with this video, check this one out, because I dive deep into all the fates of the smiling critters and their chances of returning with all the latest info. As for Chapter 4, honestly, I don't even want to talk about it. Yarnaby is a real idiot, and there's no point in expecting his return. Sawyer already did his part of the deal with the prototype, and honestly, all he probably wanted was to die, which we helped him with. Nightmare critters are just a joke that shouldn't have even existed in the first place, but then there's Pianosaurus. This 30 Seconds hero also wasn't even supposed to show up in Chapter 4, and devs just threw him in as a filler for the gameplay. But lately, a lot of fans have been pushing this theory that there are actually multiple Pianosauruses, and in Chapter 5, we might either see a second one, or, if you believe the whole musical band theory, maybe another member of his group. To me, that sounds like total nonsense, and I don't even want to waste time on it. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments. And if anyone's worried about Kissy Missy, don't be. She's definitely coming back, just like Poppy. But Huggy's return is what's really interesting. Not only is it super symbolic, since everything started with him, it makes sense for everything to end with him, but his role in our survival might actually be huge. So before I wrap this up, let me quickly drop a theory, and if you've got your own takes, hit up the comments. Huggy's gonna be a neutral character whose only goal is survival. He won't fight for our side, even though he's got a close bond with Kissy Missy, and he won't be on the prototype side, even though he started off as its pawn. His appearance is gonna be the key to progressing through the game. Think about it. Poppy escaped, Kissy's badly injured, and if we take into account what Leith Pierre said about the lab, there's no way we survive in there without a third party helping us. So maybe Huggy's gonna be that third party and help us make it to the prototype alive. After we saw Huggy's fall in Chapter 1, there were tons of questions about whether he actually died. Some people were 100% sure he was gone for good, while others analyzed the height of the fall and the injuries he took, realizing it wasn't enough to kill a monster like Huggy. That's when the theory popped up that he survived and would return eventually. Huggy didn't show any signs of life until the end of Chapter 4, where he made that insane comeback. And of course, theories immediately started flying about why Mob Entertainment made that move. A big chunk of the audience was convinced it was just a cheap stunt to bring back hype and regain the game's popularity. But come on! Just look at the peak player count when Chapter 4 dropped. It was almost as high as the last 2 chapters combined. It took me literally a few seconds to realize that Huggy's return wasn't just some desperate cash grab on top of a buggy, unfinished game. Then, user FAR44NC00. Seriously, why not Alex or something simple like that? Straight up asked one of the former devs, did you guys always plan to bring Huggy back? Like, I know he's a bit lackluster because of being the first boss and all, but I've seen some people saying it was a desperate attempt to bring back the hype. So, was it always planned? In response, Isaac said, it was always planned, but I regret not building up to it more. We were afraid of tipping our hand and making it too obvious, since everybody theorized he'd return even with basically no foreshadowing. Also, one of the users wanted to know if the original idea behind Poppy Playtime was still being followed, and Isaac gave a pretty clear and direct answer. 90% of the really big lore beats existed in Chapter 1. Hour of Joy did too, but it was called The Rapture. Prototype has always existed. Most chapter antagonists weren't created until their respective chapter. Overall, the story has simply become far more dense, not different. And these are the key answers from Isaac in the context of our video, cause now we're 100% sure that even after Isaac left, the main storyline is still gonna follow the original script. And the fact that Huggy's fall and return were planned even before Chapter 1 dropped makes you wonder, why did the devs always intend to bring him back? And what role is he gonna play in the new chapter? Right now, we've got a ton of questions. How did Huggy survive and make it back to us? Why don't his wounds match what we saw when he fell off the bridge in Chapter 1? How is his return connected to Harley Sawyer's death, if it even is? Wait, what? Dr. Sawyer? You're probably asking, what does he have to do with this? Give me a sec. I'll explain everything soon. And what about Poppy and Kissy? Is that damn prototype somehow involved in Huggy's comeback? And finally, why did the devs actually bring him back? All these questions and more will be answered by the end of this video. I think it's only right to start with the main question of this video. And if we already know that Huggy's return was planned from the start, the reasons behind it are still unknown. Everyone who watches my videos knows I keep pushing the idea that Chapter 5 is going to be the final game. And if I turn out to be right, then Huggy's return isn't just necessary for the story, it's also kind of symbolic. This whole thing started with that blue monster, and he's the one who made Poppy Playtime blow up in the first place. So ending this long journey with him just feels right, and honestly, pretty damn poetic. Something tells me the devs always plan to wrap up the story with the face of their game, and if we look at it from that angle, Huggy's return makes total sense. But we're not here for some surface level discussion. We're gonna dig deep and uncover the whole truth behind why they brought him back. Now, a lot of people probably noticed that Huggy's got way worse injuries than you'd expect from just a fall. That means someone must have attacked him on his way back to us and someone else must have saved him. By the way, I've got a whole video on my channel about who could have saved Huggy, so if you want to dive into that theory, especially since I'm going to name the suspect in this video, check it out after this one. That would really help the channel grow and I'd appreciate it a ton. During the scene where Poppy and the prototype are talking, I caught a few really important details, ones that might actually reveal the devs' true motives for bringing Huggy back.
I'm right here, Poppy.
For you,
I'll always
be here.
Doctor, Catnap, Mommy and Huggy, they're all dead. You have nothing now. No one. And soon, you'll have less than that.
Stop that.
You don't need to pretend anymore.
You don't need to play at being stronger than you are. You can come home.
How much do you know?
Everything.
Yes, there was.
But that was a very long time ago. Let me tell you what comes next.
I'm going to
Come up there.
and I'm going to
Find you. Your collaborators. The few you have left, they will be dealt with.
What are you going to do with me?
I've got something special in mind.
I've already explained why the sounds we heard belong to Huggy, and it turns out he's been nearby this whole time. Let me just say it straight up. Huggy was saved by the prototype, but even with that, I'm still pretty sure Huggy isn't gonna obey the prototype. This might seem weird, especially since we know Huggy was once just a pawn in the prototype's game. But what changed? And no, I'm not gonna say Huggy's on our side now, or that he came back because of Kissy. We know they're good friends, but now Huggy's gonna help us take down the prototype? That's not what's happening at all. I bet now you're even more confused. But don't worry, this is where it gets really interesting, and you're about to learn a lot more about Huggy and his return. Let's start by busting some myths. I've seen theories floating around that Dr. Sawyer brought Huggy back during experiments with resurrecting the dead thanks to the mysterious properties of the poppy flower. And while this theory isn't completely out there and actually has some solid reasoning, the poppy flower is meant for bringing the dead back to life, not healing wounds. And we're definitely sure Huggy just got injured, but he didn't die after that fall. The connection between Huggy and Dr. Sawyer in the context of this video is pretty simple. They're both going to be key antagonists in their respective chapters. Well, even though Huggy might have seemed a bit dumb at first, he's actually a pretty smart and strong monster. And of course, the prototype wouldn't want to lose such a valuable asset. That's why he saved one of his own minions. But things didn't go exactly as the prototype planned. Anyone remember Mommy Longlegs? This lady made a huge splash in 2022 and got a ton of Poppy Playtime fans falling for her. But her death raises a ton of questions when we talk about the context of our video.
What have you done? You make me part of you! You can't do this to me!
So this is how we found out that the prototype takes the bodies of dead monsters and makes them a part of himself. And if Catnap blindly believed in the prototype and saw it as an honor, Huggy, just like Mommy, isn't on board with becoming a part of the prototype. After being saved, he just pretended to be loyal to him, which is why he planted the explosives near the vent where we were hiding. And you want to tell me that after Huggy tried to kill us, he'll actually be on our side? Sure, you could theorize that he set the explosion in a way to avoid hurting us, just to show some loyalty to the prototype. But to me, that sounds a little nuts, and I doubt the developers planned it that way. What's actually interesting, though, is that I'm convinced Huggy's gonna be against everyone. His main goal in the Playtime factory is to survive, and if we and the prototype destroy each other, that'd be the perfect outcome for him. Or at least, if the prototype dies, Huggy will probably get a peaceful life. Based on all this, I can confidently say that Huggy will return in Chapter 5 as a third force. Huggy's gonna play a key role in Chapter 5, no matter the ending of the game. At one point, he might help us get to the prototype, and just 10 minutes later, he could make our lives a hell of a lot harder. Before we wrap things up, let me throw out another theory. Fans are actively discussing the possibility that Huggy could actually be Leith Pierre, and we know for sure that those same labs will be the main location in Chapter 5.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at Playtime Co. If you're seeing this, you must be very, very lost. Well, rest assured, friend, our state-of-the-art laboratory is just up ahead. Why don't you just go on inside and tap one of our scientists on the shoulder? Tell them you're lost. They'll be glad to help. All right. Let's be honest. You're not supposed to be here. This is the single most high-security, high-clearance section of the whole factory. When someone finds you down here, you will be shot. And before you get any ideas, don't think you can just sneak away either. No, the second you put this tape in, it set off an alarm. So if anyone's home, they know exactly where you are. Pretty nifty, huh? Security is very important to us here. If I were you, I'd start running.
On one hand, this theory has some merit, but honestly, I don't believe it much. However, this tape reveals something else. We realize that the labs are the most secure area of Playtime Co. And if we just walk in there without any backup, the prototype could kill us as easily as it did with Catnap. And since Poppy escaped, Kissy's injured, and Olly turned out to be the prototype, it feels like the only option to guide us safely and not get killed within seconds is Huggy. He was once the prototype's pawn, so he's definitely been in those labs. And who better than him to know the ins and outs of those places? What do you think of this theory?